Peace. What's up? It's the Wordman, Gary Lime. Check it. So this actually goes out to Kaylee Jerome Skelton, the maven of the mandolin. What up? I had to go out and pick up a Christmas present for Sean, and I had to pick it up at the Center for Fiction. You know how much I love the Center for Fiction. Luckily, I was able to get out of there this time without any trouble. But I was walking by, walking on by. I was actually listening to that song earlier too. I was walking by and I passed the BAM, which was across the street from there, and I remembered our text we were having back and forth, and I remembered I forgot to tell you my Ella Fitzgerald story. And since I gotta wait out here for a friend to show up, I thought I'd tell you my Ella Fitzgerald story real quick. So what happened is, sorry, I'm like sweating, get this stupid thing off my face. So this would have been, I guess it would have been last year. And I sing for a couple jazz bands and stuff, in a serviceable position. Like, I tell everybody all the time, man, you ain't gonna mistake me for John Legend. Nope, I ain't that good. But anyhow, no. So what I do is, there's a bunch of jazz bands in the greater New York region that I'll do like session work with. A lot of it tends to be like, a lot of it's actually just reference track stuff. Come into the studio, we're gonna, like, we need you to sing this corny, jazz standard. Not corny, but you know what I mean? Like, we need you to sing this jazz standard in a way that's similar to the actual singer that we're going to hire, because we're trying to get more production money or whatever the case may be. So I tend to get a good number of those kind of jobs because no one cares if I sound bad, just so long as I make the band sound good, which is an interesting difference that, like, if any jazz singers watch this, they can verify that. It's a very interesting distinction to have to make, but one sometimes you got to make. Anyhow, so I get hired by this one band, and they're like, listen, we're doing this, we need reference tracks because there's a female jazz singer that we're gonna give these tracks to in order, to help out with, and she sings kind of like in a sultry lower register, whereas so it kind of like jazz singers, that like a lower female singer is kind of near to where like an upper male singer, not upper male singer, but like, like kind of where I live. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll come in. I'll, sing a couple joints for you. No biggie, as long as the check clears. So I was like, so I go up to the guy and I'm like, yeah, great. We get along well. I've actually played with his piano player before. So him and I hit it off real well. We're having a good time. Just sort of like, talking about music and what do you do when and this, that, and the third, And, oh, hey, Rex. Cute dog. And so he hits me up and he's like, so I'm like, so what kind of, like, what are you looking for musically? Because, like, one thing I can do is I can kind of approximate sort of what sound you're looking for. You know what I mean? Like, if I know what kind of singing you're looking for, I can give you a better idea as to whether or not I can do that, or at least try to, get somewhere in there. Not just in terms of like tone or notes, but just like style, And he's like, oh man, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Cause like, we actually have someone we want you to sing like. And I'm like, all right, word, I guess that's, a way to do it. And I was like, well, what do you want? He's like, well, I want you to sing like Ella Fitzgerald. And I look at him and I was like, you want me to sing songs that Ella Fitzgerald has sung? Because I could do that. Ella's done sung a million jazz standards. That's easy. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be great, And he's like, no, I want you to sing it like her. And I was like, you want me to sing it like in a register that's close to hers, or like, make it sound similar to hers? And he's like, no. What I want is, I want you to sing just like Ella Fitzgerald. And I'm like, I gotta pull him aside. And I'm like, fam, it was literally what I said to him. I was like, you know how much you're paying me, right? And he goes, yeah, I know how much I'm paying you. I was like, you know that there's nothing about that price that tells you that I can sing like Ella Fitzgerald. Like, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, you realize that, like, no one can sing like Ella Fitzgerald, right? Like, that's why she's Ella Fitzgerald. That bitch stands alone from everybody. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody catching up to her. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, you want me to sing like her? Like, no. Like, I'm gonna do what you want because I got paid, but the check cleared. So whatever you want of this session is yours. But like, I don't want you thinking I'm gonna walk in there and you're just gonna hear Ella Fitzgerald. You know what I mean? That's not some shit I can pull out. I'm not like digging in my hoodie like, oh bang, Ella Fitzgerald. Like, fuck no, dude. No one can do that. Like, there's a reason there's only one of her. Like, no one sounds like Ella Fitzgerald. Nah, man, you could totally do it. I totally got faith in you. I heard the joint you did with so-and-so and so. So I was like, fam, you didn't hear them if that's what you think I can do. And he's like, nah, do it. And I was like, man, that's not gonna work, man. Like, so I pulled the piano player aside because I've played with him before. And I was like, is he really asking me to do Ella Fitzgerald? And he's like, did he really say that? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, gonna be a long session. And then he turns around and walks away. I'm like, the fuck's that mean? like, come back here. So me and the guy, we chop it up again. And we're there at the studio just kind of waiting to get everything, underway. And he's like, nah, man, you gonna be great. You gonna sound just like Ella Fitzgerald. And I'm like, dude, that's not gonna happen. I know what I sound like, and it don't sound nothing like, it's not gonna, dude, like, I don't want you to waste your money, you know what I mean? Because that's the other problem too, where like, if I go in there and I don't sound like Ella Fitzgerald, he's gonna be mad, and then like, I'm not gonna get hired for more session work, because, he asked the impossible. Like, I don't want him to have like high expectations, because ain't nothing high expectation about what I can do. Ain't nobody hiring me for high expectations singing. Fuck out of here. So I'm like, dude, you don't want that. You know what I mean? That's not gonna happen. Nah, dude, you could totally do Ella Fitzgerald. It'll be dope. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, all right, man, we'll do Ella Fitzgerald and hope for the best. So I said, all right, so what do you want to start with? So we ended up starting with a song called These Foolish Things, which is a famous jazz standard. It's actually, funny enough, it's a jazz standard that Ella Fitzgerald helped make famous. Everybody sung it from, like Frank Sinatra sang it. Like, I'm sure Michael Bublé's probably sang it. Like, everybody, like, forward and backwards knows the song, right? So I'm like, all right, bet. I'll go in there and I'll do my Ella Fitzgerald impression of These Foolish Things. What could possibly go wrong? And go and do the joint. And it came out okay. Like, I lean on I lean on my musicians when I sing, because I like to make them sound good. So I try to just stay out of their way when I sing. But so we do okay. It's a nice little, like, nice long 10-minute take. Everything comes out okay. Recording comes out fine. And we finish, and I go to talk to the guy, and I'm like, so what you think? And he comes to me and he goes, I want to talk to you actually. Yeah, you were right. You don't sound like Ella Fitzgerald. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. Who knew? So luckily I got on his good side long enough about it to where we ended up hanging out and cutting more tracks for a different singer, because apparently the other singer sounds less like Ella Fitzgerald than I do, But at any rate, so I did get paid off that gig, and that gig got me another gig and got me a third gig as well. So, all's well that ends well. But that's the Wordman's funny Ella Fitzgerald story. And now that way, if you were out in the city about and you're someone like, oh, do you know Gary? Be like, oh, the Wordman, I know him. He don't sound like Ella Fitzgerald though. That's the last person that cat sound like. Signing off, it's the Wordman. Peace.